Wembanyama looked great. I mean, very athletic. He canned threes. Holmgren actually did very well also. I think he might have outscored the Wemby man in this game. But every time I saw a highlight, he was getting knocked out. He looked like Jerry Quarry. I think Tommy Hearns had a better chin than this guy, right? And the unfortunate thing for the hitman was if you blew on his chin, he went down. Literally, did you see any of these highlights? Because Holmgren, every play, he was knocked on his ass. Although he performed very well, and he shrugged it off. It reminded me of like Ryan Tannehill when I saw him get just clobbered in his rookie season with the Miami Dolphins. A guy gets annihilated in a preseason game, just taken out with a vicious Marvin Jones on Gina Toretta type of hit. I'm looking to see, what this guy's reaction is going to be. They show him on the bench, and he's laughing.
Yeah. No,
I thought, okay, I mean, this guy can live with a concussed head. He's very much like Troy Aikman. But they should just, hit Dolphin quarterbacks over the head with a sledgehammer as their initiation at their rookie introductory press conference. You just say, okay, now it's time to get a little bit of a feel for what it's going to be like to be back there.
Just set them up for what's to come.
Right in the head.
You can handle this. You can handle being a Dolphin.
A surprise shot to the temple from out of nowhere. And if they're still, talking at the press conference after that, then, that's my quarterback.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Just flying by. It's flying by, Lubie, the time. I can't believe it's already a Degenerate Friday. Seems like we just signed on Appeal Yourself Off Demand Monday, and here we are at the end of the week. But it is the beginning of what hopefully will be a glorious and profitable weekend for everybody. And we will, try to help you and guide you along the way to your impending poverty. As we do have our Degenerate Friday lineup, which our guys are very sharp. We're very proud of the guys that we bring to the table here. The Greek is going to join us. He's been hot this year. I don't know. Did he continue that streak last week, Lubie? I don't have the total on how he did. I don't know if you've done any calculations on that. Mark Lawrence, PlaybookSports.com, always fascinating. Here are Mark's analysis on games, win, lose, or draw, although he did give us a brick with the Cuse last week. You know what? It's funny, too, because you have a guest on the air, and you don't want to say, hey, you know what? That's fucking crazy, Mark. 80.5 points is not enough to to tempt me to take Syracuse in that game after the shellacking they suffered against North Carolina. And it's just, unfortunately, a disturbing pattern of the Dino Babers reign here, which, and I'm not expecting. See, you would have expected Florida State to eventually get back on top, right?
I was, yes.
Well, I mean, most people would have anticipated that across 20 some odd years, the Hurricanes, is it 20? No, it's like 20, 23 years or so, 20 years.
They had the one.
But the Hurricanes would eventually find, at least a season where you said, wow, man, they're back, which we haven't had yet. What were you going to say there, Libby? You started to
they had that 10-win season with Rick, but even remember that year that they lost 3 in a row and got pummeled in the bowl game to like Wisconsin. So like even one year where they looked decent, they sucked at the end.
they've never been back to that level, or even close to it. I would say even when they were 10-1 with Rick, you still were thinking this is being held together with Scotch tape. That this is not necessarily. Or that masking tape that always, went bad, and especially was ugly when, they had your name on a locker like they did at Syracuse when I got in there for my freshman year, and my name was on the locker in masking tape. That's never good with magic marker on it, and it said DeForest spelt wrong. Usually a sign that scholarship money is going to be very short-lived. Right. So was the program, for that matter. I mean, who knew they were going to disband the fucking thing after like 1 year? Anyway, good to be with you here on a Degenerate Friday. The Greek, and we'll get you to tabulations here because we're transparent on this show. This isn't one of these programs where we're going to tell you, you know what? My guy was 9-0 last week, and his best bets were 6-0, and he hasn't lost a game in 2 sets. No, I mean, if we get hammered, we're quick to tell you. So Mark Lawrence will be joining us. I know he had at least that one brick with Syracuse. I think he might. Did he split? He's been kind of even Steven through most of the season, even though he's been giving us some really bizarre long shots and underdogs in his selections. Which you have to enjoy that because you need to take a look at those things once in a while. Do you not, Lubie? You can't just look at the premium games and figure that you're going to hit all of them. I mean, if you're picking Ohio State, Penn State, it seems like right now everybody is picking Penn State. Are they not?
Yeah.
Everybody loves Penn State in this game,
Except for you and me.
and maybe for good reason. What's that?
I said except for you and me. So I don't know if that's good or bad for everyone.
The logic is overwhelmingly in favor of Penn State, as pretty much communicated by virtually everybody that I've seen that has written about this game from a gambling perspective or a who's going to win prospectus. And everybody says the same thing, that Penn State is better than they were last year. That Ohio State hasn't really shown you that much. That they've been vulnerable. They were life and death to beat Notre Dame, which isn't all that great of a team, although they did shellac USC, which USC, unfortunately, I mean, is that something that's inevitable, Lubie? That if your team is just deplorable on defense, are you kidding me? 5-2 last week, 11-3 the last 2 weeks.
He's actually really good this year.
Greek?
I don't have his total.
Greek's on fire. I mean, he really is.
He's done really well this year.
He sounds happier too, doesn't he? I mean, I think he's overcome all of the previous emotional difficulties he was experiencing, and he just went back to being himself. Isn't that what you're looking for in life, people? Does it take you 50 years to come to this epiphany that, you know what? When you were a kid, you really liked yourself. You were a good person. You probably were happy-go-lucky. Part of your ambition was to make other people happy. You were an enjoyable person to be around, and you try to be good company to everybody and do the right thing. And then for whatever reason, I guess because you had to start making money, raise a family, do all of this other stuff that seems inherent in the human condition, at least to those of us, I mean, here in the United States, there are certain ambitions that seem to be very noble pursuits: success, wealth, happiness, good family ties, and all of that, enjoyment of life. But in the course of doing that, do you lose yourself, Lubie? That's the question.
Oh yeah, 100%. Growing up makes
You become an asshole, right?
I'm a jerk off.
You don't give a shit about anybody. You're complaining about virtually everything. Tom Brady's complaining he's not even in the NFL anymore, and he's complaining that the NFL sucks because it's become too soft of a league. I wouldn't imagine the professor who'll join us later on is inclined to listen to the Tom Brady podcast. What do you think?
Oh no. No. No.
Brady's complaining. I guess Gronk fired a shot back at Brady. That's the new form of sports journalism, where you just have guys that are insulting each other, and they make a big deal out of it. We had that thing, with the defensive back, talking about who's he ragging on, saying that he sucked. Dak Prescott. Everybody was down on Dak Prescott. And that's like, headline journalism now. It seems absolutely ridiculous. I mean, but Gronk apparently on the Kay Adams show, which is on FanDuel TV, which, I catch it because it's on the racing channel.
Yeah.
That lady used to be on NFL Good Morning Football.
Good morning show, yeah.
I thought she, was a talented host. She now does her own thing. She's by herself on FanDuel from like 11 o'clock till 12 before the races get going. And Gronk is a regular because Gronk is also paid shill for FanDuel, which we wouldn't mind being either, Lubie. In fact, that is now one of our goals in life.
Working on it.
When I'm on the FanDuel payroll, that's when I'll know I made it. I always felt good about getting paid by casinos and racetracks to do various shows and sponsorships because it felt like it was like giving back after all of those years of getting killed. The good people at Hialeah Park, they saw the results probably, of my pari-mutuel activity and said, we ought to sponsor this guy into perpetuity. Just keep giving him money. There's not enough that we could give him that would ever make up for or overcome the significant losses that he suffered at a time when he probably could ill afford to have that happen to him on a regular basis. But it was always good. But I would love to be on a FanDuel payroll, wouldn't you? Now, that would be... If I was wearing a FanDuel logo, and I almost put the shirt on backwards because of this new thing, where I saw the Nike logo, and I thought, how weird is that? That still freaks me out that golfers have the Nike logo on their shoulder, on the back of their shirt.
Yeah, it's weird.
What is that? Does that just clear space for other advertising? I mean, what is the purpose of that? NASCAR had it down from the start, right? Just walk around like a human billboard. That's the way to do it. But anyway, yeah, the professor will join us later on. Mark Lawrence was 1-3 last week, and the professor, did he get scratched because of technical difficulties?
He actually had, we thought it was because of his lost bet, but no, he had some issues with the one and only Loki, so he was actually up all night with him. So some new meds hit him weird. So we
That's
had
his dog, okay? Just so people know.
Loki's his dog, his
Yeah.
great dog, sweet dog. That's a little
Had that dog a long time, huh?
up in years, but he's still doing really well. But he actually had some new meds, and he just had a weird reaction. So he was like up all night. And Ken, being the good dog dad that he is, was up with him. So he passed out like 5 a.m, and he wasn't getting up at 8 to do this. So he apologized, but he will be with us this week. Loki's doing better, thank God. So,
well,
no plays from Ken last week.
What's that?
No plays. We didn't have. He didn't.
Oh, no plays. Okay, well that meant he went 500, which is we would consider that a win.
There you go.
Pay the juice, pay the vig, and check, please, and we're out of here. All right, I do have to just read this little blurb here from the Phil Mushnick column that I was reading on the Throne here before we get started here today. Okay. Not that you need the dirty details on that. This is one of his final little tidbits here at the bottom of the column, which he's once again railing away at the stupidity of network executives, thinking that you need to dole out $12.5 million a year for a Chris Collinsworth and or a John Smoltz, who Mushnick is particularly harsh about John Smoltz. Thinks he's just a babbling machine, that he never shuts up. And you know, how much detail do you really need, right? I don't know that Mel Allen ever mentioned spin ratio when he was talking about Whitey Ford's fastball.
No.
Never, right? I mean, it never came up, and yet the guy was brilliant, right? You could listen to him all day long. It was fantastic. Everybody had a little transistor, and it didn't matter where you were in New York City, Long Island, anywhere, even, I guess, any place in the whole metropolis, whatever the hell that is area, Jersey. I mean, everybody was listening to the same thing. They were all listening to the ball game, and they never talked about verticality. They never talked about count leverage or any of this stuff. They just gave you the game. It was great. How did we live back then, Lubie? We didn't even have cell phones.
I don't know.
I mean, how did you listen to a ball game and never hear once about spin ratio, and still have any kind of comprehension as to what was going on in the game? It seems like we knew what was happening, didn't it?
Yeah, we had an idea.
We thought. Well, I mean, that's one. I mean, Mushnick may be a little old school on this. A little. I mean, he's basically, talking like a guy that hasn't exited the 50s yet. But what? Me too, Lubie? It's not 1950 anymore, Defo. But he's right about these Schlumberfritzes. I mean, this is a business here where dead air just doesn't work. Okay?
No.
But, in a ball game, there's nothing wrong with like a little ambient sound, is there? Did Vin Scully just rattle off stuff all the time? I'm always amazed because one of my early heroes as an announcer was the great boxing announcer, Don Dunphy. Don Dunphy, who did the Gillette Fight of the Week. Do you need the whole song? Or you want me to just stop
I'm
there?
Okay. I'm good there. Thank you.
Okay, so that was the Gillette theme there.
Got it.
But and I aspire to be a boxing announcer. I don't know. I must have had some kind of connection to the sport in a previous life. I do believe that there's sometimes, I mean, is it what would you call it? Spiritual evidence that maybe you lived before. I mean, what is it that makes you today? I mean, why would I have this natural affinity from the time I was a child for thoroughbred racing and boxing? Well, I mean, is it possible that I was some degenerate gambler? Maybe involved in boxing in a previous life, but I was always fascinated by it, and always aspired. If I was going to be in the announcing game, I wanted to do blow by blow or play by play of boxing. It was one of my dreams. I was very fortunate to be able to do it a number of times. A lot of great circumstances, great friends made, terrific experiences. Live TV is kind of a gas to do when all of a sudden the guy is in the countdown and he goes 5, 4, 3, and don't worry, DeForest, about the millions of people that are tuned in right now, and go. Oh, yeah, we're here. Where exactly are we? I'm not
exactly.
Some casino.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
But Dunphy, if you go back, it's amazing because I thought he was brilliant, right? But brevity, you would have to say with a capital B, what was his style completely, and he worked. I want to say that he worked most of those Gillette fights of the week without a color analyst. There was no fight doctor. There was no Gil Clancy. There was nobody chiming in. No Al Bernstein. With stuff, which is fine. I have nothing. I always enjoyed working with color analysts when I was doing boxing. I thought it was kind of an essential thing. In fact, first match I ever called was with the fight doctor, Ferdy Pacheco, believe it or not.
Nice.
So, you're sitting there thinking, holy shit, man, the last guy that was sitting next to this guy was Marv Albert.
Yeah.
Of course, it was 10 years after Ferdy had burnt out completely. You know what? Smith looks really good in there. No, that's Jones, Ferdy. He would juxtapose the fighters every now and then. And, we've talked about this on the air. How do you subtly, when you're involved in a live broadcast, try to correct a legend and keep him from going down, a very ugly path with the director screaming, "Get the fighters right, Ferdy. There's only two guys in a ring." And you're just trying to, keep peace and keep the broadcast going. It's great. But Dunphy barely said anything by comparison to any box. He certainly was not Gus Johnson when he was doing boxing. Smith Jones. But yeah, that was the thing of the day. So Mushnick is tied into a lot of that. And he hates these guys that just babble on. He Smoltz, he crucifies.
Yeah.
Greg Olson crucifies. Moose Johnston, he can't stand, the sound of this man's voice. Just drives him up a wall. And he was talking about, and it's true. Do you really need $34 million for Troy Aikman and Joe Buck? I can't imagine that some network executive was sitting there going, hey, you know what's going to really make this thing go? Never mind the game or the teams that are playing. It's going to be Joe Buck and Troy calling the game.
Exactly.
And just to enhance, the broadcast, let's go ahead and hire Peyton Manning and Eli to do a broadcast against them where they feature every major guest, A-list guest that even Oprah can't get on the shows. Huh?
Pretty much, yeah.
Right? They got Will Ferrell doing a game the other day. Unbelievable. Like the whole game. I don't know. Is Will Ferrell funny?
I think he's funny.
I'm undecided on that. At times, yeah, something, but I think the Greek is funnier. No doubt about it. Would you say? Is that a fair statement?
I think it's neck and neck. I'm a big fan of Will Ferrell, but I can understand why he can get a little old. His stuff's sort of hokey and like cheesy.
All right. Let's bring on the Greek. What the heck? You got him there? That's perfect because we're always sniffing a Greek. We tell him to come on 8:15. We get to him about 8:45. And this is a busy man. This is not a man that wants to sit there patiently and say, "Oh, that's great conversation, guys. I'm glad I could finally join you." Greek, how are you, my friend? You're on fire. Are you hot right now? What are you doing? Do you have beautiful naked women feeding you olives and grapes somewhere by the pool? What are you doing, kid?
That'd be nice. It's always an honor for me to be on the show with you guys. So I would wait for you like I wait for a supermodel. Anytime you give me, it's great. And I agree with you 100%. I've been saying for years, the TV experts or the CEOs are terrible. The money they spend on these guys, it doesn't matter. Who calls the game? People don't care.
Yeah.
It's a nice con job that they all probably walk in a bank with envelopes. And they got 7 guys. I said, college on Fox, they got 7 guys. Put Reggie Bush on it and his wife. That's all I need. Reggie Bush and his wife, I'm fine. I don't need anybody else. But they're all con artists, and they're all robbing money. And it kills me that they spend this kind of money for guys announcing the game. If I was the CEO tomorrow, I'd fire them all. All of them.
Wouldn't you just go straight to some broadcasting school and grab, not even the top guys? Like guys that were about to drop out. And say, here, this would be instead of
weather in Miami. The girls who do the weather in Miami, I would get them. I'd be like, here, do it again. Don't worry about it.
By the way, and you travel around a little bit. There's no other media market in the country where you have women as outstanding as you do on Miami television. And South Florida TV. You get Palm Beach up there, huh?
Yeah, but Miami's way better. That's like the mother Kardashian and Kim.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. You can go to any channel and find like 5 babes immediately, and that's not even that's just a local show.
Yeah, that's the same as the restaurants, though, and the bars and hotels. You walk in there, you feel like you're in USC's backfield. They're 5 deep. Are you kidding me? Forget about it. Bring a roll of cash and you're ready to go. I mean, forget about it.
Yeah, this is the place to be. There's no doubt. It's a visual paradise. All right, Greek, you're just killing it, man. I mean, are they ruling you off? Has anybody banned you from betting? How are you even getting action down with the way that you're just
It's been a great
destroying the
year.
bookmakers?
No, it's been a great year, no doubt about it. You know, sometimes you're seeing it good, sometimes you don't. You know, it's a nice roll. It's going to end because it always does. But it's been a good roll. I mean, Greek Gridiron, I'm 31-9 for the year.
Wow, that's impossible.
I mean, that's documented. So yeah, it's been a good year. You know, a couple games tomorrow that I really like. And I think it's been a very weird year in the NFL. A lot of unders, but last night again, you know, everybody. I remember I gave it a stat in August when like 85% of the public's on one side go the other way. It's like 85%, 87% was betting the under last night, and the game goes over. And it just seems to happen even with teams. I think the big matchups this weekend obviously are Dolphins with the Eagles, Ravens in Detroit. I said to my buddy the other night, we're having dinner. I said, if somebody came to your house at 3 o'clock and said, look, I'll give you the Jets and the Giants at the point, free $5,000 bet, you would have been like, no thanks. They're playing the Eagles and they both cover. And you know, it's amazing. I don't know if you saw this story, which is great. This guy hits a 10-team parlay. Now I know a 10-team parlay is almost impossible. I'm not saying it's not, but he only put up $250, and it paid like $197,000.
Jesus,
sweet.
I mean, he picked a lot of underdogs, but still, I mean, even if you threw $125, next time you're in Atlantic City, you got to do that. I mean, even $100,000, $80,000, it's going to change your life.
Yeah,
you kidding me? I mean,
it's a nice score, yeah. It'd certainly get me out of town in one piece. You know, I'd be able to tip the bus driver on the Alta Cocker tour, you know, be able to give him a couple of bucks. And you always want to do that in front of the other stiffs that are following behind you, so they might follow suit. After this guy, you know, picks your... Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, he came up to me and knows that I did the show with you for years. And I guess he listens to your podcast at the cigar bar, straight. And he goes, Defo goes to Jersey all the
time. Circumstances are favorable, man. It's a free ride. I mean, I'll take that every time. They got us going to San Diego sometime in December. I didn't even know there was like a Harrah's Casino there or a Caesar's Casino.
Oh, San Diego. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a nice place. Yeah.
I couldn't pass that up.
Yeah, I said he's getting up there. I said he's making bad decisions.
AC, I mean, it's therapeutic for me. I absolutely love it. I really do. I know a lot of people think it's a trash dump. Yeah. And I could see where you would have that impression, but I've had favorable times there, by and large, including, you know.
First of all, you are a typical person, which I love. That's why the audience goes with you. Somebody goes to a restaurant, they pick up a girl, they're like, oh, that place is awesome. Oh, I love the calamari, the pizza, the food, whatever. I'm like, and then you go there, you're like, that's all right, but a guy picked up a babe. So if you go to Atlantic City and it's free and you're winning, of course you're going to love it.
Right, exactly.
Of course, yeah.
The Gonza Strip.
That might be the next tour.
If you're on the arm and it's free, of course you're going to love it. I mean, you're going to be like, oh, this is great. I mean, who's kidding who? Exactly. Did you ever meet somebody who went to dinner and didn't pay and didn't like it? This place is good.
Yes, we have. Yeah, Mike Mayo. Mike Mayo is one.
Mayo's the one person.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my buddy the other night took out to dinner. He looked at the bill. I picked it up and said, that's not bad. I said, it's not bad for you.
You're not paying. Of course it's not bad.
You were always very generous like that, Greek. New York Prime, that was your place, not New York. Is it New York Prime, the place in Boca?
Prime, yeah, it's place you live.
New York Prime. I was thinking Prime 112, but it's New York Prime. That's a good spot, too.
That's Prime 112 is awesome, too, but New York Prime's been my sponsor for years. Great guys, great steak. But again, I just think the NFL is a little funky this year, and it always is. The scoring's down, so the NFL is going to change a new rule starting next week. They're only going to put 9 defensive guys out there against in offense.
They could hire Al Golden, you know, to oversee personnel and, you know, number of people on the field.
The quarterbacks are not that good this year. They're really not. I mean, there's a good 10 of them that you're like, really not great quarterbacks. I mean, even Carr last night. COVID's over, thank God. But he should wear a mask because he's robbing the thing. I mean, it is unbelievable how bad he is. Like
it's crazy, yeah.
Like in a different zip code. It's like you land in LaGuardia Airport and you're supposed to land in Newark.
I had a minor interest in that game, courtesy of my personal bookmaking venture with my buddy Francesco, who was on fire last week after being in his usual slump, and he came out 6-1 on NFL games, only losing the Dallas game at the end of the week. But and he hands me the Saints last night, which I wouldn't have given 2 cents for the Saints' chances. I couldn't believe they were favored in this ballgame. As Jacksonville, is supposed to be a good team, and they were coming off a short week with Trevor Lawrence questionable, I guess, or in doubt whether he was going to be 100%. But still, Dennis Allen, how he keeps a job is beyond amazing, because anytime he's been a head coach, first with the Raiders and now with the Saints, you're thinking
he sucks.
The longer he's with this team, the further into an abyss they are going to fall.
Yep.
And so I happen to tune in a game. It's a bit of a hassle for me. I have to use like 6 different remotes to get the Thursday night game with this cockamamie cable system I have, Greek. And so I pop on the game just for a second here. I was watching a baseball game. And the minute I turn it on, Derek Carr drops back to pass, throws a brick into the middle of the field. It pops in the air and then goes back for a touchdown. And I'm like, holy shit. The fact that I was even in this game to begin with is amazing. And here it is at the moment of truth. And this guy's going to throw a pick 6. Get the fuck out of here. That was awful.
He almost won. I mean, the tight end dropped a touchdown. They could have went to overtime. I mean, but the offenses, like last week, there was 3 teams. I mean, a less than 5-yard line, first and goal 4 times, and went backwards 4 times. Tennessee Titans, I don't know why they didn't put Henry in, and they put this kid in. They got the quarterback from Liberty. He's not good, and he throws the ball away. He gets sacked, the holding penalty. Seattle's got first and goal at the 9 with Geno Smith, who's having, last year had a great year. They paid him, and this year, okay. And they can't get in 6 shots from the 10. I mean, come on. You're a pro. Could you imagine a hooker saying to you, I don't feel like it tonight? If you're a pro, you perform. That's what you do. I mean,
that's bad. Yeah, that is bad when you pay a lady of the night and she tells you she has a headache right before you do it.
Like, oh, man, I got to tell you, one of my buddies told me a story last night. He's in Vegas, right? So he wants to get a girl. So he goes, Greg, I almost texted you. And I said, thank God you didn't. So he goes, this guy he meets at the slot machine. The guy gives him a number. He calls. The woman answers. I mean, she's the woman. She's the madam. So she goes, look, all my girls are out. She goes, if you want, I could come by. I really don't do it anymore. She goes, but I'll do, I'll come by. So the kid said he's at Caesars. He's at the bar. He's not, again, not knowing what it's going to be. So it was 800, and that was the deal. He goes, she walked in. She was a dime piece, like 44 years old. He goes, I almost paid her the money and left. He goes, I can't hit water.
Is your age sticks?
I mean, when you get a tip on a horse and you go to the track, you're like, respect the 6. I love it. You get to the track, you're like, that's the 6? And it was the other way around. She walked in and she was like, said his name. He goes, I was in shock. He goes, I was like, oh my God, you're the madam? What are girls like?
Yeah, exactly.
I can see why you got out of the business. Yeah. All right, Greek, what do you have for us this week? I mean, you're so hot that people are just sitting here going, "Come on, get to the games already, Defo. What's up with that?"
All right. Penn State plus the 4.5. Utah plus 7 over USC. Those are your 2 college picks.
Okay. I like both of those. Well, I don't know about Penn State, but Utah over USC. I mean, that would it almost seems too easy where you're getting 7 points or something like that in that game, because Utah's got a great defense, and USC, wow. After a while, when your offense is having to do everything, it comes back to haunt you sometimes.
He played bad last week, but USC, Utah's a very physical team.
Yep.
They they're putting their hands on people a lot. USC guys don't like that.
No.
USC defense sucks. I'm not saying they'll win. Again, I'm saying they're going to cover.
They got 7.
Yeah.
I think the big matchup of the day is obviously the Eagles and the Dolphins. I'm going to go with the Eagles because I think the Eagles are going to be able to run the ball, and Miami's defense is one link that they're not great at. They'll keep Tua off the field. But I think when Tua's on the field, it's going to be the first time in a while since the Buffalo game, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him.
Okay.
And I think that front four is going to definitely cause a little bit. Now, Miami wins. You might as well get ready for the Super Bowl because the hype is going to be unbelievable.
Oh, it'll be insane.
Yeah, if they win.
Man, Viva Las Vegas, my friend. What could be better than having the home team in the Super Bowl and being in Las Vegas for the game?
Yeah, I mean, they're 10-1 in Vegas now to win it all. But I mean, again, I don't think they win. I just don't. Then they got Kansas City a couple of weeks down the road after New England.
Yeah.
But I do see them tomorrow night having a losing, not getting blown out, but losing. And then I think Washington beats the Giants. They're giving one.
Okay. That seems fair. All right. Who could go against you, Greek? 31-9 documented in that cigar tournament that you have going there?
Yeah.
I mean, people have to think that some kind of a fix is in, huh? Are they accusing you of stealing
No,
signs
Rick.
like you were Jim Harbaugh?
What are you talking about, the Jim? And that whole sign thing is so brutal with Michigan.
Yeah.
There's no fix. You pick the games on Friday. How's there a fix? If I really knew what was going on, would I be in South Florida? I'd be in my
Hey, you wouldn't be passing out Perdomos at at the cigar bar. That's for sure.
I'd be at the win with Steve, having a grapefruit in the morning.
Yeah. I agree.
You guys.
We love you, my friend. Fantastic stuff. And we'll catch you on the radio later on today.
Yeah, I think he has a show at 10 to 2, and he does 3 to 5.
What don't you do, Greek? You're unbelievable, man.
He's all over.
A maniac. All right, the Greek, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, he's been hitting them all season long. I mean, that's not even a particularly hot streak that you're talking about, 11-3. I think earlier in the year, he had a couple of weeks where he just swept the board. Penn State, everybody loves Penn State, Lubie.
I know.
Everybody loves Penn State. Utah over USC. I think they're getting 7. I should check the spreads out here, but these are a little bit ancient in my New York Post. Yeah, but I know they're getting like at least 7, or they were. You think
Utah is getting 7. Utah is getting 7.
Okay, so I was on to that one. Ohio State is laying 4 and a hook. Was that up to 5.5 at some point? Penn State, Ohio State. Interesting. All right, Mark Lawrence going to join us next. Mark Lawrence, PlaybookSports.com, always picking the underdogs, and so we'll get his perspective on a couple of college and pro games. And then later on, the professor has vowed to join us, and he will have the big board. And I guess we can get him started right away by asking, how much he enjoys the Brady podcast every week. Which I would imagine, what does he do that with Jim Gray? That would make it even more putrefying.
God.
To hear Brady saying essentially nothing while Jim Gray feeds him softball questions and fawns all over him, and practically, could you almost hear Jim Gray giving Brady a blowjob on those radio shows?
Those are the worst.
Well, Tom. All right. We're coming back with the great Mark Lawrence at PlaybookSports.com in a moment on a Degenerate Friday. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Now that.
The time.
Thank you, Johnny, man. Yeah, I think I was into boxing in a previous life. That's the only reason I could be so connected to it. It's 8:35. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant. And you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
All right. Tell me you had it, Mark Lawrence. Tell me you had the ultimate parlay, money line parlay, Jets, Bengals. Both teams had to be, 10-1 money line. It hasn't happened since 1973. I think you're probably well aware of that two double-digit underdogs have won straight up in the National Football League. So we're talking about 47 years of history that was erased with this double whammy that took place against the chalk. And many people got buried on that. Tell me you had it. Tell me you had a little taste on the money line Jets Bengals parlay.
I tell you this, that if I had played the Jets and the Bengals on the money line parlay, I would be the lead speaker at a Gamblers Anonymous meeting.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
That would be kind of a surprise, wouldn't it, Lubie, if showed up for your first GA meeting?
This is my story.
And into the room walks World Championship handicapper Mark Lawrence. And you're thinking, no, not you. You too? Are you kidding me? We welcome to the show from playbooksports.com. Always one of our favorites. And, just a genius when it comes to the numerology of this stuff. And way ahead of his time, man. I mean, it's probably. Were you the subject of mockery early on in the days of Playbook Sports, Mark Lawrence, when you would come up with these trends and stats and quantifiers and all the differentiations that you make numerically in handicapping sports? Did the people think that you were flat out crazy? What was the reception like?
Well, it was back in the day, Defo, when the industry was really sort of in an embryo stage, just growing, and nobody was really, what I'm going to say, doing the work.
Yeah.
First day, they were all. I was basically in a field of touts and scam decappers and the likes of all that.
Yeah.
And people really couldn't believe that. There was honestly somebody out there doing the work and really, really handicapping these games. So that's sort of what I guess launched the career per se, if you will. And then I got my hands on what I call my well-oiled machine, my database, and it's helped me tremendously. I wouldn't, like the American Express card, I wouldn't go anywhere without it.
No, it's fantastic. I remember meeting you many years ago in the company of the Polyman. I believe it was at a PF Chang's in Aventura. And you started, talking about some of the things that you had in one of your preseason guidebooks, and I was like, "Holy shit, man! This guy's amazing." So, congratulations on all of that. It's always good to be ahead of your time. I mean, the unfortunate thing, Lubie and I sometimes feel like we were ahead of our time with a couple of things that we came up with, but unfortunately, we've been unable to capitalize on any of that.
Time catches up.
We just have bitterness that naturally arises when you think, "Wait a minute, I had that idea years ago. What are you talking about?" But no, you've been staying the course, and now, of course, very much on top of your game with playbooksports.com and all the fascinating material that you guys churn out. Tell me, it was you that had the Browns on the money line last week against the 49ers. I know various people, in survivor pools, used to be suicide pools, probably. And this is why I always say, don't get cute. If you think the 49ers are going to win in week 1, go ahead and use them. And, people probably were saving the 49ers, maybe even targeting this game, saying, hey, there's no way, even with Deshaun Watson, that the Browns are going to beat the 49ers, who are on a roll. And sure enough, they lose the game outright. Were you on that one by any stretch of the imagination? Because I don't know how many points the Browns were getting, but they're in there with a backup quarterback I never heard of. And they go ahead and beat the team that everybody was already anointing as the probable NFC Super Bowl entrant.
Well, I hate to say this after the fact, but yes, I had a piece of the money line.
Who the hell could bet the Browns?
Oh my God.
Oh my God, Mark! I mean, you have courage that others just don't possess.
But sometimes things are almost too obvious when it comes to the favorite. It becomes an ABO situation, always beware of the obvious. And San Francisco had just been camped at home for 3 weeks, steamrolling everybody, and they were going into the best defense in the NFL last week. And, that well-oiled machine said, hey, you got a 50-50 probability of this team winning this football game. Well, at plus 340, I'll take a chance at 50-50. So it was all about the math is really what it was.
We also, after you left us on the air last week, I think Lubie and I might have, I don't know that we questioned your sanity, but we thought, geez, what's up with Mark? I hope he's okay. He just gave us the Giants. Plus like 90.5, but it didn't seem like enough points. And so, did you do the New York parlay by any chance? Which a lot of people now are saying that, oh, yeah, I saw that one coming.
Well, the truth is, I don't believe in doing parlays. I think that that's what bookmakers are in business for.
You're the anti-DeForest then. Yeah, because I can't bet a game straight up. I have to combine it with something. I don't care what a NASCAR race; it doesn't matter.
Well, you gotta tease them with something. At least tease them if they don't parlay them. I understand
that.
But, I had a good friend that ran one of the largest sports books in Costa Rica, and he told me in confidence, he says, something, we make all of our money on teasers.
Isn't that something? You would think it would be the easiest money you could make, right? As a bettor.
Exactly. Yeah. They just look too good is what they do, I'd rather do all my work, Defo, and have to win one game. Yeah, and I would have to win 2 games to cash 1 ticket, if that makes any sense to you.
It makes perfect sense to me. What are you talking about, Mark? Any 14 parlays I've been stuck with when the last game unfortunately fell out and went the other way. And, I had considered hedging off, but it wasn't worth it because I had chalk in the first 3 games. It's just self-sabotage is the nature of the game here. And that's why you're so great to have on the show, a voice of reason. Coming through in an otherwise very macabre and dark world of people that just want to, complicate matters, beyond the scope of being manageable. All right, let's get into it. This week's card, you have some marquee games. I don't know if that's what you want to dive into. That's the other thing we love about you, Mark Lawrence. You can have Ohio State, Penn State, but you will find value in Liberty, Middle Tennessee State instead. So go ahead, fire away. You give us your selections for this week from playbooksports.com.
Well, I'm going to cast an eye toward Port Everglades, and I see a ship coming in that's leaking oil badly this weekend, okay?
All right. Oh, the Exxon Valdez theory. I love that.
It exists, and that's exactly what we're going to focus on. And starting off in college football, we're going to fade 2 of these leaking oil favorites here. First, it's going to be Arkansas. We're going to fade them and use Mississippi State and take 6.5 points. Arkansas has not only lost 5 straight games in a row, they failed to win the stats or the yards in 4 of those contests. And this is sort of a game being priced on name and reputation, if you will.
All right.
Arkansas was a pretty good team, if you will. Mississippi State struggling here without Mike Leach, who, God rest his soul, I hope he's up there smiling on the football world at us down here right now. But
must be drawing up some plays, with Don Coryell or something,
something I don't know, but we're going to rely on his shadow and play the points with Mississippi State plus the 6.5 against that leaking oil favorite in Arkansas for our first play.
Okay, and where are you going next?
The other one, we're going to fade another favorite that's also been out-yarded in each of their last 4 football games and also take 6.5 points with UAB, Alabama, Birmingham against Memphis. And another name and reputation type play here with Memphis being a fairly popular football team. And UAB, they struggled a little bit this year. I'll say that. They just got steamrolled in their last football game. And Trent Dilfer is really sort of learning the ropes of being a head coach in college football. His only head coaching experience was at the high school level. So he's putting his toe in the water here.
Yeah.
His first football season here. But he's still going to be a close to 500 football team. And I'm going to fade Memphis on this Exxon Valdez leaking oil theory and take UAB plus the 6.5 for our second play.
All right, so 6.5 points in each of the ball games. Mississippi State And then UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham. Mark Lawrence, PlaybookSports.com. The pro games, it seemed like for some reason, even though you had a couple of monumental straight-up upsets, it seemed like it was sort of easy pickings last week. My friend whose action I book went 6-1 against me, giving me 7 games, and only Dallas prevailed on my end. And then I even hit a 14 parlay, believe it or not. Handicapping on the toilet the morning of the games, just looking at the point spreads. Did it come across? I mean, did the bookies get buried this past week in the NFL?
Well, they got buried on the over-under total side of things is where they got buried, Defo. The unders went 14-2 in all games.
Wow.
Yeah, only 2 overs cashed last week, so there have been some massive adjustments you'll see being made this week. And some of it might be weather attributed or related, but largely it's because the way that the unders rolled in last week, and we'll probably see a little bit more of that. As far as the sides of the football game goes, I don't think they were beat up per se so much by the favorites or the dogs, but it was largely more the over-under total side of things.
All right. I would imagine that you were able to capitalize on some of that with your over-under tip sheet, because nobody gets into it more deeply than you do. And, you had said earlier in the season, in the college football season, with regard to over-unders, which I'm not inclined to really, get involved in, very much at all, if at all. But that, because of the changes in the way the clock was going to be running, and they didn't stop it on first downs anymore, that the unders were probably going to prevail, and it would take a while for the books to adjust. Have you found that to be the case on the college scene?
Really, in truth, I don't bet a lot of college totals.
Okay.
Truth be known here, it's just too wide an array of games. You got 32 teams you can concentrate on the National Football League.
Yeah.
College football, you got to keep a pulse on 132 teams, and I have to get some sleep sometime somewhere. And I like to let those go and focus in on what I can narrow in on. That's what I do.
All right. So if you're looking for a total in the Alabama-Tennessee game, you're not necessarily inclined to spend a whole lot of time on that. All right. The pro games. I mean, there's a marquee matchup, of course. I don't know if you're going to touch on that, but Philly and, of course, the Dolphins. I'm thinking your inclination would be to take the points if you were going to bet that game. But what do you have for us on the pros?
Well, I'm going to, again, look at this leaking oil tanker that we're using this weekend, or going up against, and 2 leaking oil favorites in the National Football League. These are going to be ugly plays and hard to do, but the favorites are really hard to do as well. It's hard to lay points with these types of favorites here. The first, the Chicago Bears, taking 2.5 points. That's ugly enough in itself. Against the LA Raiders, who one has to wonder what on God's green earth they've done to warrant going out as a road favorite. I mean, they beat themselves, let alone go out on the road and have to lay points in football games. They've lost, like I say, in the stats 3 times in a row. And on the flip side, you've got Chicago, as bad as they are. They've won in the stats 3 times this year. So Chicago's playing a little bit better than their record indicates, and the Raiders are just flat out bad. I'll take the Bears plus the 2.5 at home in that football game.
All right. And you're still on the Exxon Valdez with your next pick?
Yeah, we are. We're going to go right.
Everybody's leaking oil, man. It sounds like my old Chevy Vega.
That's what's happening this weekend. There's a lot of oil being spilled this particular weekend. And we want to be there to mop up some of it. The other one, we're going to go right back to the guy that was ugly of all uglies last week, the New York Giants. We're going to go right back to him and take the points with the G-men.
Wow.
2.5 against Washington, who has been out-yarded 5 straight football games in a row of the Commanders. And, people, they see the names of the teams. They see the New York Giants. They struggle to score points. And they see Washington being a little bit of a semi-offensive team. Sam Howell can on occasion, find the end zone. But the truth is they've been pushed around the field 5 straight games in a row has Washington. This is division dog taking 2.5 points here. And I'm going to roll the dice and ride the red-hot streak of the New York Giants and take the 2.5.
That's awesome, man. I wish I had your courage, Mark Lawrence. Just once in my life. I mean, 2 weeks ago, if somebody had come on a program and said, "I like the Bears and the Giants with the points,"
Oh my God.
they would have had you Baker acted. But it does make sense after last week where you covered with both. Pretty incredible. All right, playbooksports.com. A lot of fascinating stuff as people can clearly see and hear as you come on these programs with us. How do people get more involved with that? Because as a guideline, I mean, you always like affirmation when you're gambling, and you're thinking, okay, like these guys who I respect, that they really like my pick. And this can help you in so many different ways. All of this information, even if it's just discouraging you from going crazy with a pick that you like overwhelmingly, and all of the math maybe points in another direction. So how can people get in touch with playbooksports.com?
Well, you can log on to the website at playbooksports.com and check out any of our 3 football newsletters. And let me say this about going crazy here, Defo. Sometimes you're better off keeping your hand out of your pocket and not making a play.
Yes.
And saving the juice rather than getting involved in games just for the sake of getting involved in games. And that's a lot of what we do is, we'll point out the reasons you should not touch these teams with 10-foot poles.
Yeah.
And a little bit of the games we talked about are 10-foot pole type plays. So everything's all explained out, laid out in our newsletters. Yeah, you can check that out at playbooksports.com.
No, it's good. I mean, it's almost like it's biblical in a sense that you can tell by your conversation, Mark, that you're in this to win and make money, not to just have action, which unfortunately is an affliction of mine that I can't shake. Because I mean, if a race is going off, you've seen me at the track. I'm screen to screen, and there isn't a single event that I don't touch. Even though, as a kid, I remember reading, and it stuck with me, that there's no way to beat the races, but you can beat a race, and it's the same application, I think, that you're professing here. When it comes to betting sports, and that is find the games that you really think you can win, and then just play them and make the score. And well, what's wrong with winning, right? Quitting while you're ahead is not the same as quitting. It's all good. All right, we love you, Mark Lawrence. Thanks so much. Always appreciate having you on any program we're doing, and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Hey, Lubie and Defo, be well, stay care, and I'll catch up with you next week. Bye-bye.
Good luck this weekend.
All right, sounds good. So much fucking logic there, Lubie. What do we do?
Well, this week I'm in line with a lot more of his plays. The Giant one seemed fucking insane, and he hit it. And the FSU one, I was like, look, I know that BC game and the yard thing.
There was no way I was taking Syracuse in that game.
But he was reading into that too much. I'm like, yeah, you're trying to find a trend where trend's not there. They just had one really bad quarter against BC, and they had a bad 2 quarters versus VT. But otherwise, they've actually outplayed all of their opponents. And that's
they seem to be rolling now, and they're rolling up points.
We'll see. I mean, I think
machine.
Like I talked about yesterday, I would just say out of that from a gambling standpoint, I mean, at home, I think they should be okay versus Duke. But 15 points against a really good defense, that team that game can stay closer than that spread. But his plays this week make a lot more sense. Like I'm a lot more in line with what he's doing this week. It's not like he's reaching for dogs just because he needs dogs.
The Bears pick, a home dog to the Raiders. That's kind of interesting, and they just beat San Francisco. So I mean, what the hell do you want them to do? I would be inclined to just skip that game because I think both teams suck.
Yes,
but I mean, if you were going to play the game, take the home team with the 2 and a hook. They have an excellent chance to win this game outright, and the Raiders are just so unimpressive. I don't know what the record is against the spread, but I would be inclined to. I know I hit a game with the Raiders, and they covered last week, and they got that safety against New England. But all of their games, I mean, they don't score any points. Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, wow. If ever you wanted to say he was the benefactor of being, and this is your term, Lubie, I'm going to put you, system quarterback. I mean, when he's in San Francisco's system, look, even Brock Purdy looks like Joe Montana in that system for some reason. Especially, I mean, the system might be one thing, but they also have the personnel to play that system.
Yes.
Freaks, right?
Yes.
You got McCaffrey and Debo, Samuel, and I mean, just any number of ways. Kittle's, to just kill you. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that team's loaded.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, a lot of quarterbacks would look good there. So
Yes, the Raiders. The
Garoppolo looks like he's a step
talent,
slow to me. I mean, have you watched any Raiders football?
I've
Time I see
seen
him.
a little bit. They look lost. Like
Yeah.
the funny thing is, they do have Adams and they do have Josh Jacobs, so it's not like they're bereft of talent.
Right.
But he's Jimmy G.
The other team blankets Adams though the entire time.
That's the thing is you just don't let Jacobs run, and now you have to have Jimmy G be an actual quarterback, and he can't do it. He's not good.
Yeah. All right, Mark Lawrence. Good stuff there from Mark Lawrence. We have a bunch of selections out there for you from the Greek and Mark Lawrence. We'll get some more college plays from the professor that's coming up, and hopefully we'll connect with the professor today here and get involved on a little big board as we'll be with you on the other side of 9 o'clock with all of that as we return in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:57.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Brian Flores had just kept his mouth shut, collected his $100,000 per loss checks, and done his job. That was what you were hired for, asshole. You weren't down here to compete. You weren't down here to try to win games. You were hired to lose games so we could get the number 1 pick in the draft, you piece of trash. And then you've got the nerve to sue your boss because you refuse to lose your boss's instruction. And you know what? I hope you stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I hope Joe Burrow kicks your ass twice a year for the rest of your life, because that's what you deserve for not doing your job, you piece of garbage.
Well stated, Professor. All right, I can't even imagine where we're going with number 1.
Honestly, can you imagine if you're the Arizona Cardinals right now and you are getting ready to possibly hire this man as your head coach? If I'm Kyler Murray's agent, I'm calling the Cardinals front office and say, that's fine. Trade my client right fucking now. Do not put this bum anywhere near my player who you just signed for $200 million. Do not put this piece of garbage. If I see Ryan Fitzpatrick in Las Vegas because it's 100 miles from Phoenix, I want everybody in the front office fired or my client out of this franchise.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
Right. I wish this man was more opinionated. Welcome back to the show.
He's really soft, subtle in what he does. Yes, very much so.
You piece of scum. I always love when he throws it in.
It's not an opinion if it's a fact. I mean, I not to pat myself on the back, but I would say history has proven me 1,000% correct about Brian Flores.
Yeah, Louis points out Tua is an all-star now, MVP
He was
candidate.
choosing the pick at 75.
Tua looks like the best quarterback in that class right at the moment, ahead of Joe Burrow, ahead of Justin Herbert. And let's point out that Ryan Fitzpatrick is the worst piece of garbage on television in the history of broadcast television, who not only is terrible on air, but who pouts during games because people don't like his stupid jokes enough. Go screw yourself, Flores, and go screw yourself, Fitzmagic. You're awful.
I mean, we ended up getting the same guy they were targeting.
Education wasn't in broadcasting, was it?
It was a roundabout way, though. I mean, they ended up at Tua anyway, in spite of their desire to tank for him.
Yes, and then what did Flores do? He spent 2 years trying to destroy him, benching him for a bum.
Yeah.
Benching him for the Lucky Charms mascot who dresses like Conor McGregor.
Who then swaggered his way into several victories at the end of the season that seemed to go in open defiance to the stated
trying
purpose.
to leave us with Justin Herbert, who,
Yeah.
much in Brian Flores fashion, can't win a game to save his life.
Lubie loves that. I mean,
No,
he's been on that
Herbert's
bandwagon
good.
for a long time. Yeah, that Herbert was nowhere close to Tua.
I don't blame
terms of
Herbert. I
talent.
think Staley sucks. I know last week Herbert was bad, but I don't
Yeah.
blame Herbert. I think blame his coach. I feel bad for the kid.
We were speculating earlier. I don't imagine that you're inclined to listen to the Tom Brady podcast.
No,
I was hit with this headline right away when I logged on to
But color
CBS
me
Sportsline.
shocked that you are.
No, I don't listen to it. I didn't even know he had one. But and my fear would be, of course, not so much that I would find Brady there, but I would also find Jim Gray, who if there was anybody that was gonna, I mean, when I think of Jim Gray, I picture you, looking at a big photo of Ben Affleck. I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, not a lot of flattering things about this man. So anyway, but apparently Brady was on the podcast and he was saying that the NFL has become super soft. And the headline was made because Gronk went on TV.
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Noted tough guy Tom Brady, who every stupid rule about hitting the quarterbacks.
That's what Gronk's point was. Yeah.
For Tom Brady, and he's sitting there whining about how soft the league is.
Okay. Yes.
Go make out with your kid again.
So you didn't hear the podcast?
I didn't hear the podcast. I did see a picture of him attending, because I guess he bought part of the team, the Las Vegas Aces game. That's how I know I want to spend retirement, is going to freaking WNBA game.
Sorry,
I got to say, honestly, I would rather get hit in the kidneys by a 275-pound defensive end running full speed than spend 10 minutes at a WNBA game.
Well,
I don't know what the hell Tom Brady is doing in retirement, but
and he owns a pickleball team. A pickleball team and a WNBA team.
The sad part is, if forced between to pick the two, I'd rather watch pickleball than a WNBA game.
Televised pickleball is
can
rather
we
pathetic.
stick on that for a second there? Because honestly, who the hell is running the WNBA? You're holding your championship series in the middle of the baseball playoffs and the NFL. Did you want to make sure absolutely nobody watched this?
I happen to catch the end of it.
Is this a plan?
Is there a wind tunnel at one end of the Barclays Center? Because that last shot that could have given the Liberty the victory and extended the series, literally, I mean, it looked like one of those shots you take in the playground where you've got a ball that isn't particularly, weighted properly, and, a tuft of wind comes and just takes it out to center, like to the foul line.
Would we be shocked if the guy who runs the air conditioning at the Barclays Center was trying to cut the WNBA finals short? Weren't we all mercifully like, oh, thank God this has ended?
Yeah, exactly. They're making.
I don't have to watch anymore.
I enjoyed the four-woman panel
Center,
analyzing the game.
You have to be there.
Yeah.
I might turn the AC on at a convenient moment too. That's all I'm saying.
It was one of the ugliest, potential game-winning shots that I've ever seen executed by anybody. I mean, it would have looked a lot better if it was blocked and crushed into the stands than being this far off. But that was the caliber of play. I mean, it's not like you're expecting Earl the Pearl out of the corner, for the Knicks in the 70s.
No, you are expecting Earl the Pearl, because he's either like 85 or dead.
No, he's still around.
Exactly what I would look like that shot to expect me if Earl the Pearl was taken.
I think you'll find this not surprising, but Special K had Earl the Pearl Monroe at Talia's Tuscan table.
Okay. I'm assuming he's very old. I don't know exactly what.
No, he looks good, man. I tell you what, he's got to be, what, 80 maybe? Yeah,
that's what I'm
late
saying.
70s.
Okay, so
something
sort
like
of
that.
what I would expect his jump shot to look like at this point.
I think he probably can still stroke it, man. He always had that thing off the one shoulder there. It was great. All right. And college football.
That's
last
actually
week.
an interesting topic. How much would we expect Earl the Pearl to score in a modern day WNBA?
WNBA game? I think he would average 20. No?
WNBA.
I don't know how old he is. So, I mean.
78. He's 78.
78 years old.
I'm saying he's going for like 27 a game then.
78.
Holy Kelsey Plum. What are you talking about here? Brick
I mean,
City.
look,
Yeah.
all anybody's talking about in terms of women's basketball is that girl from Iowa.
Yeah.
Would really be shocked if Earl the Pearl at age 78 was better than the Iowa Chucker girl. I mean, he's got, what, 3 or 4 inches on her?
Yeah.
I mean,
Still's got the shake and bake, you know, he can still move.
Yeah.
It would be a mismatch. I think you would have to deem it a mismatch, just a blatant mismatch. Kind of like the early season
I
schedule.
gotta say that would be a
for the powers of
WNBA
football.
matchup I would watch.
Yeah.
The
Senior NBA players,
75
yeah,
and above
75 and over,
NBA
yeah.
legends
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
versus the
WNBA.
Las Vegas Aces.
Active.
I think that would be a very
That would be
interesting game.
entertainment. Yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, you know, it could be televised during, you know, the off season there in the dead of summer. All right.
It's Jarnik, by the way, coming in on the top rope to let us know it was the most watched at WNBA final games in 20 years.
What does that mean?
Which I assume that means 150, 160 people watched it.
200 homes. Officially.
No NFL game on Wednesday. He's right. There was no NFL game, but there was a hell of a game between FIU and Sam Houston State that went to double OT. That's what I watched instead of the baseball playoffs.
The playoffs were on.
And Major League Baseball playoffs. So, you know, again,
I knew you would. I knew you would
WNBA.
rouse. You know, get a rise from Sarni on this topic.
I'm being legitimate about this. I want to know who the hell scheduled this. Why wouldn't you put that in that zone after the NBA Finals, where you know you've got like the USFL and regular season baseball? I mean, I don't know why the hell you would be playing your finals in this particular part of the year.
You know, big sellout crowd there in Barclays Center. Fat Joe was at the game. That's enough for me. You know, to sell it. You know, if I see,
sure.
That validates any sporting event. If Fat Joe has an interest in
Fat Joe, who once came to a podcast Lubie and I were hosting. So
for an hour. He was on like an hour.
I don't know it's necessarily that hard to get Fat Joe to attend stuff. In my personal experience, all it takes is like a plate of ribs.
Looks like he's trimmed down. I don't think he's worthy
I'm not
of the
trying to
moniker
insult
anymore.
Fat Joe. The ribs at Kitchen 305 back in the day were damn good, but in my experience, you know, getting Fat Joe to the place isn't that difficult.
Let's turn our attention to college football.
Yes.
How did we fare last week? Did we do any good?
Thanks to the University of North Carolina smoking Miami. Once again,
Yeah.
Thank you, Miami's idiot defensive coordinator, for taking a key penalty at the end of the first half there. We made out okay. Again, back and forth, but hit our 2 big ones of the day.
All right,
unfortunately, got a push out of that Washington-Oregon game because the line spiked from 2.5 to 3 right at the end and then landed on 3. Naturally, it did.
Unfortunate, but still, I mean, and that was a great ball game too. Well, where did that leave you in terms of your thinking about those 2 teams and where they rate in terms of national acclaim?
I mean, I think they're both legitimate top 7 or 8 teams. The question for Washington, of course, is they've got that brutal last month of the season, and would anybody be able to get through that unbeaten? Although right at this moment, I would say the way the season has unfolded, that a 1-loss Pac-12 champion should have an excellent chance to make the playoff. But again, for Washington, can you even get through that run at the end? Because you've got 4 brutal games back to back over the course of a month. I'm pulling them up right now.
Well, Washington State, Utah. Is it UCLA too?
This is their last month. November the 4th, they're at USC. November the 11th, they're home against Utah. November the 18th, they're at Oregon State, and then home against Washington State. That's a brutal run to finish the season without a week off. So, I mean, the question is, I guess, for Washington, can you get through that with maybe 1 loss? And if so, can you go and win a possible rematch with Oregon or someone else very tough in a Pac-12 title game?
Did Caleb Williams lose the Heisman last week?
I would say yes, honestly. I mean, look, we know there's a natural inclination to go against guys as returning champion. He had a miserable game in prime time. I don't know how widely watched it was in terms of ratings, because I think people are a little exhausted.
I think the WNBA, is right up there.
But yes, I would say right at the moment, Caleb Williams is 3rd among quarterbacks in his own conference in the Heisman, with excluding some other guys right at the moment. So, yeah, I would not. which we actually did call during our college football preview to fade Caleb Williams as the favorite. Yes, I would say he lost it.
Yeah, it seemed that way. I mean, all of a sudden, you're seeing a guy that was favored before the season started, and it looked like he was going to roll his way into it, and then unfortunately,
you've got some guys having some amazing seasons. Penix at Washington, Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma.
Oh shit,
is going nuts. Like there's some guys having some great years. I think it'll be particularly. Look, I think USC is going to get tagged another time or two by the end of the season. So I would not be surprised, honestly, at this point, if Williams didn't even make a return trip to New York.
Wow.
I mean, unless his stats are off the charts, I could very easily see USC as a 3-loss team, and if that happens, there's not much of a campaign there.
He's having a hot dog on the Staten Island ferry on his way to possibly.
All right, I have a question. Sarni is driving us crazy here.
Trying not.
Can I get a pick on number 1 Wisconsin at number 2 Nebraska volleyball? Here's my question: Wisconsin and freaking Nebraska are 1 and 2 in volleyball. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
It's indoors.
What the fuck is going on?
He's obsessed with the Nebraska volleyball team, the women.
What the fuck is going on at the California schools that Wisconsin and Nebraska are 1 and 2 in volleyball?
You're talking women's volleyball too.
It's not beach. I mean, this is indoor volleyball, so they've probably been playing.
Yes, which the California schools have dominated for 50 years. What the hell happened, Stanford?
Holy crunch karai. What are we talking about?
Volleyball?
Right.
Don't get roped into it.
Don't go into it.
Do yourself a favor.
It's a sport dominated by 6-foot blonde women. How did the California schools not just don't go to the beach and dominate this sport?
You would think.
You know what?
Where's UCLA and USC? I mean, that would be one too.
Might be. It might be like punters. You might need to go to Australia to get women's volleyball players.
There you go.
That might be a new thing where you start looking out of the country, because Australia seems like it would be ripe with all the tall women.
Doing the Shaky Rodriguez / Patino move, and they're going outside of the U.S.
The St. Mary's basketball move, where you just recruit in the country of Australia.
Exactly. Sarni's saying they're going out to like Sweden and Australia.
This is the worst thing that could possibly happen, is that Sarni starts steering the conversation of women's volleyball. It's kind of like, I mean, we love Tony Segreto, but when he used to bring up that Florida State women's softball team, prime time, we're on
I'm not trying
radio.
to be a jerk about it, but there are some visual incentives attached to women's volleyball.
Oh, no doubt. I mean,
That's
look,
the case with women's softball.
Played well. It's entertaining to watch for a period of time. I can't say that I don't enjoy a well played Olympic volleyball game, but yeah, I mean, I just mainstream sports talk, it probably doesn't fly.
It's probably not great for ratings. I'm not gonna lie.
Did you see that blonde chick? I mean, that's about what we know about women's college volleyball.
I'm just saying, if I'm the athletic director at UCLA and Wisconsin and Nebraska are 1 and 2 at women's volleyball, everybody's fired.
I'm getting the Cavanagh twins on my team, and seeing if they have any eligibility in the sport.
I mean, they're short. I don't think they're.
No, they wouldn't be volleyball players. Yeah, but then you wouldn't figure it. Yeah, I guess basketball lends itself to that more so. All right, let's get some college football plays here going, Professor, and then we got to get to the big board here, because Lubie's he's itching to get to the track.
Okay,
I'm not wrecking Ken.
we got a few we like. We'll start with the big one of the week: Penn State at Ohio State, 4.5.
Yeah.
Ohio State. Interesting game here. The numbers actually down, opened in some places I think as high as 6. To me, it's the contrast between the over/under and the spread here. Very low total at 45.5 on a 4.5 point line. I think you got to take the points in that situation. If everybody's really looking for a low scoring game, which I personally am not. I actually kind of like the over here. I think you got to go with the Nittany Lions and the points in this situation. And honestly, I'm not that impressed with Ohio State. Yes, they got past Notre Dame, but at this point, how impressive a win is that on a 2-loss Notre Dame? We got throttled by Louisville. Maryland hung in for a while. Ohio State pulled in late. But other than that, there's really nothing to hang your hat on with Ohio State. Penn State, very similar to Michigan. They've handled their business. They haven't played anybody, but they've robbed everybody they played. You get 4.5 here. Seems like a pretty easy pick to me.
All right. Yeah. The majority of people that I've seen are on that side of the fence and saying that Penn State with the points, even going to what is it, the horseshoe there?
Yes, it's
they have to play him, the old horseshoe, and as intimidating as that might be, that Penn State is ready for the task here. Probably, in there with a good shot to win the game outright. But the 4.5 looking very attractive. All right, what else do you have for us, Professor?
Next one, I think we're looking at a classic bounce here for the horse racing fans here, and that is Oregon at home laying 20.5 to Washington State. Yes, Washington State slumped last week against Arizona. They're a little bit physically beat up coming off a tough game against UCLA. But at 20.5 against a team that just took a brutal loss against Oregon. And the thing you saw about that Oregon defense in the Washington game, very vulnerable defensively to the vertical passing game. That's what Washington State likes to do. I'm not calling for money line here. I don't think Washington State will win the game, but at nearly 3 touchdowns, I think this one's a no-brainer. Give me the Cougs all the way, plus the 20.5.
All right, this is a team that you've cashed on before and had great success with so far this season. One of those professor spots, much like Northern Illinois and the overs were many years back when we first got this thing rolling. All right, anything else?
Yeah, and I hate to do it to people, but I think we actually have a pretty easy one here, and that is fading the hometown Hurricanes once again as Clemson comes down here laying 3 points. Anybody who's followed the Hurricanes know they've had absolutely no success against Clemson since joining the ACC. Clemson going in the right direction. Did take a tough loss to Florida State, but have won 4 out of their last 5. The main thing for me is personnel. If you watch the Hurricanes last week against North Carolina, they have a real serious problem with big running backs. Clemson Shipley's the better known back, but Phil Maffa might actually be the bigger back. Comes in at 230 pounds, inside runner. I think the Canes are going to have huge problems with him. And then, you read the reports down here, and all you heard was Van Dyke limping around. Van Dyke not looking healthy in practice against the Clemson defensive line that will hit the quarterback. I don't think that's a good sign. So I think Clemson -3, no brainer. Fade the hometown team. And honestly, look, if you're the Miami Hurricanes, if you're a fan right now, you got to have serious doubts about this coaching staff. The defensive meltdown last week, obviously the kneel down situation 2 weeks ago. I can't imagine why you'd be back in this team right now. They look to me like they're heading the wrong direction.
Lubie's always at war on Twitter with the Hurricane fans who still think they're better than Florida State, in spite of the 2 losses here in recent weeks, which, I look at that sideline. I see pandemonium. I don't see any kind of confidence really being exuded by Mario Cristobal, who has a little bit of that Todd Bowles lost look when he's on the sidelines. I mean, for all of the money and the
and the recruiting success
that went with him.
Like, I mean, he's an excellent program builder who is very questionable as a game day coach.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, the rest of his staff is looking very questionable right at the moment too.
They look like
you could have a guy like Cristobal who's maybe not the best game day guy.
Right.
If the staff around him is very strong. But right now, that does not look like the case.
Doesn't look good. All right, so Clemson, your semi-lock of the century or the week going against the University of Miami here at Hard Rock Stadium. All right, time. Can we do it, Lubie? Is this being done in tandem here? You and the professor combining on the big board?
No, I don't know. Whenever he's ready for me to.
I'm ready for the big board because we've had a lot of things going on, Defo. But one thing we've had a consistent pattern of this week is not so great behavior in the stands. Some very questionable.
Yes.
Number of very questionable incidents in the stands. So that is the theme this week. Because, we're all sports fans here, and we don't want to look bad. And some of you people out there with your fan behavior are making the rest of us look kind of shaky. So that's this week's big board. The theme is the big board of inappropriate fan behavior.
All right, here we go. Number 5.
That takes us to number 5. Really, Colorado fans?
Yeah, you were crying over losses.
And I heard people speculate that this was because Colorado had blown the spread. The game went to overtime, and it was a 12-point spread. You blew the spread like an hour before this.
Yeah.
You're crying because Colorado lost a football game in overtime? You're crying in the stands. You're bawling uncontrollably into your girlfriend's lap because of a Colorado football loss. Here's what I can tell you. Don't go to any more games the rest of this year, son, because you're going to have a very difficult time. If you're crying over a 3-point loss and you're a Colorado fan, get ready for a very difficult last month of the season. It's not going to get much better for you. Maybe you'll get Arizona, although the way Arizona looked last week, yeah, put it this way, crying Colorado fan, I wouldn't be spending any of that bowl trip money quite yet. I wouldn't be booking any flights to where you think Colorado projects out in the latest bowl standings, because I don't think you're going to be making that trip.
It's nuts.
I did want to stick this item in. We started talking about it like 2 hours ago, but I never got to it, of course. This from Phil Mushnick on the Colorado situation. So Coach Flim Flam is blaming his chosen and paid transfers for Colorado's latest loss. Heck, Deion Sanders twice had 60 minutes believing he took his orders directly from God. Just why, I mean, maybe people are, sobbing over this fact that they're not as good as they thought they were. All right, that's number 5, crying in football.
Number four, and interesting that Sarni mentions this event because we actually have one this week, and this is from the Rugby World Cup where 2 England fans dressed up like British Navy sailors from the 1800s got in a fight during the game and lost. Now, look, I don't approve of dressing up like an idiot for a fan. I know we grew up with Dolph Van Denny and a bunch of others. If you dress up in a Halloween costume for a game, I really don't have any respect for you whatsoever. Leave that bullshit to the mascots. I don't know why people do this. I don't know why they need to combine their need to play dress up and go to games. But if you go to a game dressed up in your Halloween costume, number one, you probably should be ready for a fight. Because there's probably somebody who's like, hey, asshole, with your giant, could you take your giant hat off so I can see the game with this for my ticket I just paid a bunch of money for?
Yeah, hey, Horse Cartwright, man.
And number 2, you better be ready to win the fight, because realistically, you look like 10 times a jerk off if you show up dressed like a British Navy officer and you lose the fight.
Why don't they just have a fife and drum corps lead them?
You better know that Brazilian jiu-jitsu crap if you're going to show up to a game dressed like this, because you better be ready to win the fight.
Chances are somebody's going to go ahead and throw a punch at you at some point for one reason or another.
I would.
Yeah. And you'd be entitled to, I would think. There would
right?
Be no,
Again,
no punishment for that.
You pay a bunch of money for tickets to the Rugby World Cup, and some jerk off in a 4-foot-tall hat is sitting
get the
in front
fuck
of you
out of here.
drinking fucking grog because he's working a theme that week.
Hey,
Admiral Nelson down in front.
Admiral Nelson.
Was Sarni aware that this erupted in violence, these rugby matchups?
I think Sarni, like the rest of us, is very shocked that a Rugby World Cup ended up with a fight.
Exactly.
All right, that's number 4. If you dress up, win.
Number 3, and I don't even know what to do with this one, but it's a video that went hyper viral on the internet. Alabama fan during Alabama game feels up his girlfriend, gets videotaped doing it, and in 40 seconds worth of video clip, can't unhook her bra the whole time. So much wrong here. The least shocking thing, to be honest, is that the Alabama fangirl with a full arm sleeve tattoo is ready to go at it in the stands during the game in front of 100,000 people. I mean, that's kind of a sure bet right there. That's your 1-7 shot at the track.
Holy Teddy Bruschi,
these days, when everybody records everything that goes on the stands, you really didn't know someone was going to film this? And if so, that wasn't a problem for you?
Hey, that still had to be, working before the game, you would have to think.
I'm just going to say, with that ham hock arm, she kind of reeks of a moped. They might be fun, but you don't want your friends to see you riding it.
Up there in the those are deep nosebleed.
But yeah, if you're going to make this move, you can't not be able to unhook the bra. Again, what are these people doing? Everybody knows the little finger snap trick. Like that's what are they teaching in high school?
It's the first thing you practice in kindergarten.
Learn that by 14. I like he's doing it off air.
All right, that's
just very sad Alabama fans.
not a surprise, though. I mean, consider the source here, Alabama. And, where you would think almost anything goes in that regard. All right, that's number 3. The lack
Number
of skill
2,
set.
and I don't generally like to rip the local fan base here, but we got to talk about this one.
All right.
You're making us all look stupid, Neckbeard. For those who do not know the backstory, and this went national, this actually appeared in the New York Post. A Dolphins fan who goes by the Twitter handle Homie went to the Dolphins game, took a picture with this young lady during the Dolphins' victory over the Carolina Panthers, then went on Twitter to ask Twitter to help find the girl because he hadn't gotten her number during the game. Okay.
Wow.
So many things here. But number 1, if you didn't get her freaking number during the game, did it occur to you maybe that's because she didn't want you to have her number?
Does look like a bit of a douche.
Did you think maybe, just maybe, as you were, I don't know, cultivating the latest Hamas look with that beard, that perhaps she didn't give you her number because she wasn't interested? And do you think if that was the case, that she's now more interested now that you've gone to Twitter to stalk her?
Yeah, exactly. Ricky's not better.
I often wonder why whenever I'm watching football games, it is just chock full of the worst commercials for the worst human beings you can possibly imagine. Everything from these corrupt gambling sites to Frank Thomas and his fake Viagra drug to the most awful beer. This guy is the reason, because this is the NFL audience they're pitching to.
Yeah, we're
Stalker
dead meat.
guy who, after 47 Bud Lights at the game, think the girl, just because she took a picture with him in the middle of a Dolphin celebration, must want him real, real bad.
Yeah. And she was conducting an equally thorough search, to find this guy.
Yeah,
very unlikely. Yeah, I would think. As in lose my number, which I never gave you in the first place. A little frightening, and no doubt about it. And that's why Roger Goodell just signed another extension for $70 million a year. It's finding something that would appeal to people like this. All right, that's number 2.
And number 2 really does actually lead us to number 1, because now the situation in the stands have gotten so bad that Roger Goodell actually has to import fake fans into Monday Night Football games.
Yeah, that was a strange one.
In order to make it appear like there are actually Los Angeles Charger fans.
She might have been the only one in a Charger uniform that was at that game.
Yeah, well, I talked about this with Lubie immediately. You know how I knew she's a crisis actor? Because no LA Charger fan were surprised when they blew the game at the goal line.
No.
Like when you lose yet another game because Staley screws up a 4th and 1 call on the red zone, are you really surprised at this point? Can you really anticipate a different outcome? As we all know, of course, about 2 hours after LA Chargers superfan, whose name we still don't know, appeared on television and captured America's heart, there were pictures of her dressed up in a Minnesota Vikings outfit with skull printed across her forehead, wearing an Adam Thielen jersey, which, I mean, come on. Like, clearly this woman's being paid to attend games.
Yes.
Because you really believe there's a woman out there who purchased an Adam Thielen jersey and wrote skull across her forehead?
No, not apparently of what,
very
Filipino,
obvious.
Asian descent here.
The NFL is importing crisis actors, and since it's his personal specialty, I think we need to get Alex Jones on the case to investigate what's going on with these fake NFL fans.
Another reason to go ahead and enhance the pockets of Roger Goodell, encouraging this type of behavior at games. That was wild too, and it's always amazing how the camera knows exactly where these nutbags are. I mean, like immediately as they started featuring this woman as if she was the coach, she got more.
I would use the term suspicious as opposed to amazing.
More shot to her than Jerry Jones at a Cowboys game.
From the background, it appears she's probably either in a skybox or a club seat with that curtain right behind her head, which, again, look at the picture on the left. The woman who face paints herself for the Vikings and purchases an Adam Thielen jersey, what are the odds she has a job that she can afford club seats?
That'd be 0.0.
It's not real high. Let's put it that way.
No doubt about it. Excellent job as always, Professor. You've done it again. The big board, outstanding, of unjustifiable and irrational fan behavior. I thought you were going to, I mean, there was some serious fights in the stands that I'm seeing. Seems like a regular occurrence now at virtually every ball game that guys are getting the snot beaten out of them in fights in the stands at various NFL games.
Yeah, I mean, but I that's never been an uncommon experience for me.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've always sort of taken that as a given that somewhere in your area might not be like next to you, but within a few rows, there's going to be some putz who has 30 beers, can't handle his liquor. And well, truthfully, I now think that it really deals with like what has become pre-gaming, because you remember when we were younger, Defo, pre-gaming was like you took a grill, you had a couple beers, you threw the football around, you had a good time, and now it is just a contest to see who can get the most ridiculously drunk before the gates even open.
Yeah, I mean, they practically set up a meth lab,
exactly,
by some dolphin tent, at the in the parking lots there now. Yeah, it is kind of crazy. I mean, it escalated. It used to be a lot of fun. It was kind of like a little family gathering there before the game, and it was a whole nice, wholesome Sunday feeling.
Right, and now there's some putz with a pickup truck that folds up like a fucking GoBot.
Yeah,
and
yes,
it has a blender for frozen margaritas, and
it's unreal.
TV setup.
Two kegs pop out of the toolbox somehow. Yeah,
and then they don't even go and into the stadium. They just have a giant TV screen out there.
Exactly.
And 6 generators to keep it going. All right, Professor. Always a pleasure, my friend. Good luck with your plays, and thanks so much for being with us.
You have a great one, boys.
Thank you, Ken, man.
Thanks so much, the Professor, ladies and gentlemen.
Great.
All right. Good Degenerate Friday. I feel, almost as if I'd gone through some kind of therapeutic experience here. Getting all of that degenerate behavior from the Greek. Mark Lawrence, brilliant today with his selections, and hopefully there'll be winning ones. And, of course, the Professor, who, he kept his comments relatively tame about the Brady podcast.
Oh, yeah.
That is weird. I mean, Gronk was right. He called him out. He said, how can you possibly call the league soft and the rules, that are so advantageous now for the offense when they made all those rules to protect you?
Well, good for Gronk. Like that's literally the thing. All these they're all attached to Brady, the tuck rule, the knee rule.
Well, and the roughing the quarterback calls that escalated to the point. I don't know. I mean, there must be a stat out there about how many more roughing the quarterback calls there are today than, say, you would have gotten against like Joe Cap.
Yeah, for sure.
Who was a guy that you couldn't rough. He would just get up and start fighting. It was great. That was the way they went about their business at that time. Now, I mean, how many times have you seen it where defense gets a great stop and then there's a penalty and you're looking and going, oh my God.
And it's the stupidest hit. It's just a regular hit, right? Sometimes when they're throwing it,
push the guy at the end of a play.
It's like he didn't even do anything.
Get out of here. All right. We have to get out of here. We'll see you later on now. We'll be at the track today, 1:00 post time for the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show. Been a spectacular week of dining on the Lunchbox Show, right? They started out at Luke's.
That was great.
Seafood Grill there, and at Luke's Grill. That was great over in Davie. Yes. And then Max's Grill. Meisner Park. Very lofty company there with Bert Rappaport. And then yesterday, the Stone Crab season underway at the Delaware Chicken Farm. But that stuff that they have in those cases there, it looks absolutely fantastic, right? It does not look like stuff you would see in a supermarket.
No, it's
and it's cheaper too, which is amazing. I mean, that's worth the trip. It's worth the schlep. Yep. If you want to, you're doing any kind of grilling over the weekend. Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market. Can't say enough good things about those guys. That Gene can cook too, man. Huh?
Yes, he's great on the grill. He's great. The chowder that they came up with is freaking.
That was delicious. Yeah.
They're really good at flavors. They're really good. They do a really good job for a place that's just supposed to be a deli counter.
Had some of that spinach dip on a couple of Ritz crackers yesterday. Fantastic, man. Fantastic. That was it. Good enough for dinner. All right. We'll see you guys later on. 1:00 out at Gulfstream Park, 10 Palms. Joe Beja, talking about Joe Beja, doing a great job over there. So it's always a pleasure. I mean, what a way to cap off the week, right? The best part of it, you know what it is, Louie. I sit down and Mayo's got 2 racing forms for me, Friday and Saturday.
And I used to.
And here comes a server with a Chardonnay.
You have a Chardonnay waiting for you. Yes.
I'm like, was it worth the schlep? Yeah, absolutely, man.
Oh, yeah,
There's already action during the show. I mean, now you got 12:35 post time at Aqueduct. All right, we'll see you later on as we leave you now. That
The time.
it's 9:36.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my